You have no idea where camels come from. The camel is quite an intriguing blend of unique physical adaptations, and their distinct traits help this enormous mammal thrive in a desolate habitat. We know them to be from deserts, and we know deserts to be dry, hot, and unforgivably hot. The majority of dromedary camels are found in Africa's wild Sahara Desert, where they endure daytime temperatures going over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and the night times sometimes falling below zero. The Bactrian camel lives in the considerably harsher Gobi Desert and migrates across Mongolia steppes. They are a little bit different. They can resist extreme desert temperatures, yes, but they have also adapted to survive in snow-covered highlands. Camels in the snow seem like a crazy sight, but it's all automatic when you're made for the weather. Because you see, camels were not always confined to Africa and Asia. They actually originated in North America. We have always thought of camels being from the desert and are native to the land of harsh desert suns and no water. But what if we told you they came from the Arctic? Camels have a thick covering of insulating hair that allows them to tolerate both heat and cold. Although they will lose part of it in the summer, it keeps out both heat and cold. The fossils of several camel prototypes have been unearthed in North America, with the first ones appearing in various forms and sizes, with the smallest being the size of a rabbit and the biggest reaching 4.5 meters or 15 feet at the shoulder. Can you imagine a rabbit-sized camel? The American camels eventually moved, some into what we now call South America, and others northwest to modern-day Alaska. The northward-headed animals migrated into Asia across the ancient land bridge between the continents of America and Asia at the time, eventually evolving in today's Bactrian camel. As for the Arabian camel, they first emerged around 6,000 years ago. It has been raised as a one-humped domesticated version from the Bactrian camel by tribes in Asia who left no historical evidence of their achievement. The first mention of a one-humped camel is on a piece of Egyptian pottery from around 3000 BC. South American camels did not develop humps, but if the llama's head is inspected and then compared to that of the real camel, there can be no doubt about their ancestry. 2 of the 4 members of the camel family in South America are domesticated, while the other 2 are wild creatures. The llama and alpaca are domestic species. Llamas are employed as pack animals, but they are also bred for their wool and delicious flesh. In locations with a scarcity of lumber, its excrement is served as fuel. The alpaca is bred for its exceptional wool. Humans historically used alpaca wool to create robes for Inca noblemen. The Guanaco camel is a wild member of the South American camel family that can still be found in good numbers in the highlands of Peru and Ecuador, and the hills and plains of Patagonia. And the vacuna is the smallest among all camels at just 90 centimeters in height and weighing no more than 110 pounds. But how do we know that camels originated in North America? So, during the mid-Pliocene, some 3.5 million years ago, the standard Earth's climate was 2 to 3 degrees Celsius higher than it is now, and the Arctic was 14 to 22 degrees Celsius higher than it is now. There was no polar ice cover on Earth. Despite being covered in a boreal-type woodland environment rather than tundra, the Arctic faced lengthy periods of frigid darkness. That certainly doesn't sound like camel territory. Natalia Rybczynski of the Canadian Museum of Nature worked with colleagues for several years to gather fossils on Ellesmere Island, Canada's northern island. They recently unearthed 30 bone pieces that biologists believed belonged to an ancient mammal's tibia bone. Rybczynski and her colleagues used a relatively new technology called collagen fingerprinting to establish the animal species to which the tibia belonged. Collagen, the major protein present in bone, was recovered in trace levels from the fossils. The scientists created a collagen profile by using chemical markers for such peptides that form collagen. Next, they matched this profile to 37 extant mammal species and a fossil camel discovered in the Yukon. Turns out the collagen profile of the high Arctic camel is most similar to current camels, notably the dromedary's camel with one hump and the Yukon gigantic camel, which is assumed to represent Paracamelus, the progenitor of modern camels. Rybczynski says they now have a new fossil record to better explain camel evolution. Their study shows that the Paracamelus lineage roamed northern North America for long periods, And the simplest answer for this pattern would be that Paracamelus actually began there. Maybe some of the characteristics of modern camels, like their big flat feet, large eyes, and thick humps, have developed from living in a polar climate. Other studies believe that the camel's adaptations may have originated in the Arctic. According to Christine Janis of Brown University, as stated in Science News. Camels are highly specialized creatures. Their distinctive humps contain fat storage, which is mostly water like all bodily tissue. In the worst desert circumstances, it can keep them alive without water for up to a month. In a habitat where most animals are pretty tiny because of limited supplies and the risk of exposure, the camel is a veritable giant, reaching more than 5 feet at the crown of the head and weighing about 800 pounds. They can survive under conditions that would kill almost any other species thanks to their unique extending feet, nostrils that can open and close freely, lips that can swallow thorns, and mainly formed blood cells. It just makes sense. The long legs, the humps for storing fat, are all adaptations for living in a climate that's not easy to navigate or find food in. And if camels have originated from the north, these evolutions can be the result of having to live in extremely cold, snowy climates. Camel red blood cells are oval, unlike any other mammal, and the oval shape permits blood to flow even after it is hardened due to dehydration. When resources are few and a camel relies on the fat on its hump for survival, the hump progressively deflates and may flop over, particularly in bactrians, when the contents are depleted. When a thirsty camel arrives at a water source, it can consume up to 40 gallons in just a few minutes. When this happens, you can visibly watch as the hump reinflates, and the hollows over their eyes refill within a few seconds after replacing essential fluids. Perhaps most significantly, the camel maintains a holy place for the people who rely on these creatures for their basic survival. Their humps also aid in temperature regulation. Because the hump contains most of the body's fat storage, the remainder of the body may cool off more quickly. Naturally, the camel's capacity to go for long periods, even months, without drinking water is its most intriguing adaptation. The hump is not an optimal source of hydration since it requires energy for the body to access and absorb fat reserves. Yet it is the only mammal with such capabilities. When you consider that a horse can only live for 4 or 5 days without water, the camel's skills are pretty astounding. The camel is not the rough, vulgar, and wild animal of myth, but a dignified, noble, and charming servant with a wicked sense of humor and some minor personality issues. And with personality issues, I mean they moan, curse, and spit. They've been seen in videos kicking, bucking, and biting innocent tourists just trying to have a good time in Dubai. Given their rich background, hopefully you'll give them space when they seem like they don't want to engage. They seem to have been made for a different climate altogether. Another mammal similar to camels is the jerboa. Jerboas are little jumping rodents found in the deserts of northern Africa and Asia. They are beautiful animals with long ears, tails, and hind paws that give them a cartoonish look. They also have mainly developed legs that allow them to jump like kangaroos. Jerboas are unusual among desert life in that they do not drink water. Instead, the plants and insects they eat provide them with the necessary hydration. There are several Gerboa subspecies, some of which are on the verge of extinction, like the four-toed Jerboa and the Euphrates Jerboa. Desert animals must be able to survive in challenging environments. Around the planet, there are indeed hot and cold deserts. Animals in both sorts of desert climates must be able to stay in an area that is entirely devoid of water for the majority of the year. Temperatures in both types of deserts can vary greatly. The Sahara Desert in Africa is the world's hottest desert, with daytime temperatures reaching 58 degrees Celsius and dropping below zero at night. Conversely, temperatures in harsh Asian deserts such as the Gobi may drop below -20 Celsius for more than 6 months of every year. And this tiny animal can withstand temperatures ranging from below zero to more than 130 degrees Fahrenheit. And the Jerboa family is a fascinating collection of rodents that have evolved to live in hot and cold deserts just like camels. These are unusual-looking animals. The head and torso resemble a mouse and vary in size from 3 to 15 centimeters based on the variety. The tail is longer than the head and body, measuring between 6 to 23 centimeters. It serves as a support while the Jerboa is sitting erect, and for stability when the Jerboa moves. Some species have little mouse-like ears, while others have long rabbit-like ears. The Jerboa's most unique feature is its black legs, roughly 4 times as massive as the forelimbs. Jerboas are primarily solitary creatures, with each jerboa having its burrow. However, small colonies of distinct burrows are occasionally created. Burrowing is how jerboas live in the desert. They avoid the heat of the day in hot deserts and the coldness of winter in cold regions by dwelling underground. But when the rains come about, they dig caves on the sides of hills to avoid floods. During the scorching summer months in the African deserts, they place a block of earth in the opening of the cave to keep the heat out. And in the winter, you'll see the Asiatic jerboas seal the gaps of their burrows to keep the cold away. These nimble little diggers scrape the earth with their short forearms before pushing it out with their muscular hind legs. Did knowing the origin of the camel shock you? Tell us about it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching.